today we're going to be producing house music in the style of Hot Since 82. Yes! Oh. Now, Hot Since 82, aka Daily, I met this year in Ibiza. He actually came over and said hi and said he watches the channel, which was a huge ego boost for me, and he was a thoroughly nice chap. His music is deep, emotional, driving and hypnotic, and that's what I want to show you how to achieve today using just the stock plugins in your DAW. As usual, you can download the project file, all the samples completely free to pick apart and use as you wish. And before we get stuck in, I want to say a huge shout out to our Accelerator students who have been achieving some incredible things this year, including getting signed and released to Nora En Pure's record label, Purified Records, hitting over 1 million streams on Spotify, and getting signed to Colorize Music as one of their figurehead DJs. But without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. Okay, one take Billio, no edits, nothing, let's get straight to it. Bursting is 124 BPM as the tempo for that deep techie house sound, and then we need to select a nice big fat kick. So I'm going to go to my favorite kicks pack, and I'm going to go for kick 1. It's nice and deep and thumpy without too much top end click. And then we just need to program that on every beat. Boom, boom, boom. I want you in my room. Nice. Let's do it. Oh, it's hot today in the south of England, but I love it. I'm not complaining. So I'm going to just increase the release a little bit so it doesn't click by cutting off really suddenly. And then next thing we need to do is add a little bit of reverb to this. Now, I usually wouldn't recommend adding reverb to a kick, but for this style of music, it can add some real atmosphere. So we've created an auxiliary channel. I've just added a very short room reverb of under half a second, and then I've just boosted up the volume and then taken out everything under 120 Hertz. And now let's feed some of this kick out to that reverb. So it's kind of a bit like a basketball, but that's okay because it's going to make everything else merge together. So we need to name this. What are we going to call this? Hot Since 82. Okay, I did one a few years ago, didn't I? So I can't call it Hot Since 81. I'm going to call this Hot to Trot because we love it. Okay, all right, next thing I want to do is get a drum in there. I'm going to get a normal clap and I'm going to make it really short and sharp to suit this style of house music. Sound selection is so important when it comes to music production because if you get the right sound, you don't have to do that much mixing. I'm going to go into my claps and let's just look out for a clap. I've got my magic list. That's going to help, isn't it? Let's go for, no, that's too hardcore, isn't it? We don't need a clap like that. That's a bit fresher sounding. So let's put that into a drum rack. I've created a separate channel so we can process the kick separately from the rest of our drums. That's really important, as you will see very shortly. And now I'm just going to program in a clap on every other kick. So let's just program that in, like so. And I'm going to shape this clap slightly. A lot of people fail to tweak the shape of an instrument with the ADSR controls, the amplitude, and it can make such a difference. So listen to this. Let's just tighten up this clap a bit. Make it a bit shorter, like so. Now I'm going to feed out some of that clap to the room reverb that we've already used for the kick. And the way we're going to do that is we hit this button here for routing, and in drum rack you can hit R as well, and then this section crops up, and all you need to do is press right click, create return chain, and then from this drop down you can select any one of your global auxiliary channels there. So I already did that. Here's one I made earlier. Then you can lock down that R button, and if you make sure that send is selected, you can see we've now got this send control here. So let's just feed a little bit of that. So we can see it already sounds like it's coming from the same place. Okay, next thing we need to do, get a hi-hat in there. Most important drums in house music, the kick, the hi-hat, and the clap or the snare. So again, I'm going to go into my drum samples, go to hi-hat. I think I'll go for a closed hat today, because we want it to sound nice and tight. So yeah, that's what I'm going to use. Let's just drag it in. Even though it says open hat here, that's just because it's the main hat of the track. It's not actually an open hat, and we'll bring an open hat in later actually when the energy levels get up. So let's just put this in between every kick drum. There we go. And we'll turn it down a little bit. In fact, what we can do is we can reduce the volume of every other one just very slightly. And this is going to add movement to our track, which is really important for keeping interest. And that's how Hot Since 82 gets that lovely dynamic sound with just a simple loop going over and over. That's a big part of house music, keeping it interesting. I'm just going to take it down in volume. Probably add a little bit of room reverb to that too. It all sounds like it's kind of gelling together. Next thing we need to do is get a loop in on this. So what I'm going to do today, instead of using Splice, I'm going to use Loop Cloud because I haven't used that for a while. And it allows you to search through loads of loops, but being synced up to your project as well. So what you have to do is you create a MIDI channel, then you drag in the plugin for Loop Cloud. So we can just drag that in there. We can hit Open App. And now I'm going to search for a drum or percussion. So I'm going to look for a top loop. I'm going to look for something that is between, no, it's not the length I need, BPM, somewhere between 120 and like 128 BPM. Should come up with some nice house music loops like that. And then let's just have a listen to some of them. In fact, we can, that's cool. We want something subtle that's just going to add some groove to this. So I'm going to loop this round and then preview some samples as we do it. Like, that's cool. Like, there's a lot of nonsense in there we don't need. Yeah, that's the technical term. So I'm actually going to download that. I'm going to stop that. I'll then create an audio channel and I'm just going to load in the sample that we just got from Loop Cloud. I'm listening out for texture more than anything because you can change the tempo and you can cut out the bits that you don't want. So let's make sure this is warped correctly. Should be warped to 128 BPM. Lovely jubbly. So let's get rid of some of the bits that we didn't need. All those weird lasers. It's not techno, it's house we're making. So actually, all I want is that kind of standard 16th hat shuffle. So I'll just duplicate that and then bring it up underneath our drums. We could even feed a little bit of that out to the reverb. Gel everything together. Okay, nice. Now we need to get onto the musical part of this. So I'm going to go for the bass line first. We're going to have to select the key that we're working in. I'm going to select E minor because it's the same as that bug-in track. So then we are going to use one of the synths that come in Ableton, but it really doesn't matter if you're using Serum, doesn't matter if you're using a different synth. This is going to be pretty basic and it's surprising after a cup of tea. I'll tell you the secret in a second. The secret, my pedigree chums, is having a nice cup of tea. Now, the secret, apart from that, is just a lot of sounds that you really like and you'll recognize are actually a lot more simple to make than you might think. And we cover that every week. We have live calls in the Accelerator where we remake popular sounds. But here we go. I'm just going to throw on the wavetable, which is one of the synths that comes with Ableton. And we start off with a standard saw wave like that, which sounds like so. Let's turn it down a bit. And we're just going to play an E minor chord with this. So that's the E, the G, and the B. And if you don't have a keyboard like this little fellow here, look at that. There you go, tiny little one. Then you can just program it in using the piano roll editor. So let's do that. I'm going to go stabs, Stabber Christie. Oh my God. All right. And then I'm going to hit E minor. And then if you hit scale, you'll see that it's only showing the notes from within that scale. So we'll start off on the E. And we just want to get some groove on the 16ths. So at the moment, this grid is now split into 16ths. We can see here. All of the fun happens on these 16ths, all of the syncopation, all of the groove. So check it out. Don't know which camera to look at. Like so. And then you've just got that loop. And it's, if you groove along with just that, just the kick, then you know that you've got a bit of a groove going on. The fewer elements that you've got that make you want to dance, the easier it is to make a track that sounds really good. And if you're not dancing early on in the production process of a track, it's probably a good idea to look at either the bassline pattern or your main synth pattern to get something grooving against the kick. So now let's just build out that standard triad by doing not what I've just done. So what we need to do is just copy that, paste it on the A, as I said. Wait, no, sorry, just skip a note each time when you're in scale mode, like so. See, We've skipped one note in between each of them. And now we've got this standard triad. So let's now make this sound not absolute gash. We'll take it down an octave. Bit darker already. And now for the fun bit. We're going to take the frequency down on the filter. So our high frequencies are coming out. It's already a nice shape. Maybe tighten it up a bit pluckier. Bit techno sounding. And now what we want to do is assign this envelope not only to the amplitude, which is the volume, we also want to assign it to the frequency cutoff of the filter. And that's going to give it a really nice that meow sound. That's the technical term. Once again, just absolutely laying those technical terms on you like a thick buttered slice of technical term toast. So now we can hear it. But it's sounding a little bit weak and a little bit gutless. So to make that sound a bit fuller, what we're going to do is choose a different filter type. Let's go for this one and add some drive. It's going to really push it and thicken it up, and a little bit of resonance. And now you're starting to get some character in there. And now last thing I'm going to do is add some unison, which is going to add several more oscillators and detune them all slightly. So now we're cooking with gas. Okay, next thing we want to do is add a bit more character to these stabs with a little bit of delay. Now what I'm going to do is create another auxiliary channel. Let's get rid of that one. We'll keep Hall because we're going to use it very shortly. And what I'm going to do is create a third one by pressing the right buttons. And then I'm going to call this stab delay, like that, or stab del. Now I'm just going to throw on one of these tasty little echo units. 100% wet because we don't want the dry signal doubled up on the auxiliary channel. And then what I'm going to do is select dotted eighths and turn the reverb down and feed a little bit of these stabs out to that. And now you've got a really interesting rhythm starting. Add a little bit of reverb on that. Absolute grooves straight away. Now let's feed some of this stab out to the Hall reverb on the second auxiliary channel. A bit long, let's take down the decay on the reverb. Now, when the filter's right down, that is deep. That is deep. Now, of course, that's the same stab riff as the original Buggin track, but I don't care because I'm a gosh darn maverick. Oh, we could switch it up a bit, actually. I'll show you the power of the 16ths. So let's just move this 1/16 over. That's actually just cool already. So what I'm going to do is just using those 16ths as a grid, find something that's hitting just before the 4 downbeats, and that's where all the groove happens. Like this. And if we just repeat that, what you'll find is you literally can't not dance. Like, I'm happy with that, mate. Get in. And now we need a bass line to complement those stabs. So the bass line is going to dance around in between the stabs, and it's going to dance around in between the kick as well. So the kick's like the granddaddy saying, "This is the way that the track is going." Okay, still recording. You missed the end of my granddad song, but maybe I'll sing it again for you one day if you're lucky. Right, next thing we need to do is get that bass line in there. So I'm going to throw another wavetable in there, like so. And again, I'm going to keep it simple. I'll probably just keep it on a sine wave, so the default waveform. Right, and it sounds like this. But I'm going to change this synth to be monophonic. And that means not mono as in just in the middle channel and nothing on the sides, although technically it is at the moment. It means I can't play more than one note at once. And in the bass line, you don't really want to because things can get messy pretty quickly. So So what I'm going to do is turn off, no, I'll keep the stab on so I can kind of work out where the bass notes are going. And we don't want the bass notes to really hit on the beat because that's where the kick's hitting. So that it could fight with it. We can do it, but then we'll need a sidechain compressor to duck the bass against the kick. So now it's just about finding a groove that works in between all of those stabs. And actually, some of them will complement the stabs. I'm going to put it up a couple of octaves because it's easier to hear the pitch of the bass notes. I'm going to turn off scale mode because I want to hit this note in between, which isn't actually within the scale of E minor. And that's what's known as an accidental, and you can use them to add a little bit more interest and character. But if you're new to music theory, easiest thing, just stay in scale mode, don't use accidentals. And if you struggle with it, you can check out my Music Theory for EDM Producers program. So pretty much just repeating that, and then we'll change it the second time round. Okay, so we're just switching it up the second time it loops around to keep it a bit more interesting. But what I'll do is loop that again, and then I won't have that up bit the second time. Up bit is not a technical term. That's just me putting two words together. There we go. So now we can take it all down a couple of octaves, but first I want to get the length of the notes right. So any note where there's one and then another one straight away, I'm going to reduce the length of that note so there's a tiny bit of silence in between them. Not all of them actually. And that allows the note to completely go silent, which will give more impact to that second note that plays just after it. With release turned up, you won't hear the difference, so let's turn it down a bit. So this is with release turned up. Let's just listen on its own. They all kind of blur into each other, so let's tighten it up. Nice. So just on the root note of the track predominantly, and that's going to allow us to keep that really nice deep vibe. If the release is too small, you'll start getting that kind of clicking sound. In fact, what I'll do is, I think I might put this up one octave, and then add a sub oscillator 1 octave below. That sounds a bit cooler. That's nice. So what I'm going to do now is add a sidechain compressor, and that's just going to gel everything together and get things really grooving. I've still got so much to show you actually, so I can't muck around for too long. Let's just get this done. Color that green, the natural color of drums in the wild, like so, as they roam through the production Serengeti. And now what we need to do is put a sidechain compressor. Any compressor will do really. Well, most of them have got sidechain control. So let's just put the standard Ableton compressor on there. Open up this cheeky little button here. Sidechain, take the input from my sidechain trigger channel, which is this. And this is just a very short, sharp rim shot sample that's going on every beat. And then I've got it set to sends only, so we never hear it. So the default is for all of the channels to go to the main master channel, which means you can hear it. In fact, I'll show you what it sounds like. This is the sound I'm using. And this is so I can trigger the compressor and have it duck, like in time with the kick. If I trigger it from the kick, it usually ducks for a bit too long, so this gives us more control as all of the power comes from the attack and release on this compressor. So let's listen to the bass line and start ducking it a little bit. You'll see the kick popping through. And I'm going to put an EQ afterwards to take out that high-end tick. And again, that does happen with sidechain compressors too sometimes. And now we've got rid of that high-end click. Nice. And now what we can do is, after naming this sidechain compressor, we can copy that and paste it onto our other elements. So we could use it on the stab, but we don't want to duck it too much because the stab should be heard when the kick's playing as well. Maybe just a tiny bit to give it some groove. Oh, nice. Okay, next thing I want to show you is something I haven't shown on this channel before, which is me sweating profusely. And as I said, that's because it's hot today, but it's all good because I like the heat. So now let's get a simpler on there, which is a sampler. They just call it simpler. And I'm going to create my own synth, but I'm going to create it using a little vocal. So I'm going to just go to my samples kit. I'll go to vocals, female vocals. Okay, I'm going to use this one. I'll drag it in. So we can hear it there. But because she's singing multiple notes, I only want to use that first note really. But it's not in tune with the rest of our Ableton project because this has not been sampled at middle C. So first thing, don't worry too much about that, but we have to rectify that issue. So the way we can do that is get a synth that is tuned correctly, and most synths will start off being tuned correctly. And I'm hitting C and it's going da 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 da. So I need to make sure that when I hit this sample, it's hitting the same note. Oh, okay. Well, this is embarrassing because it is actually tuned perfectly. Pretty much, but usually it wouldn't be. In fact, I'll show you. All right, let's go and use a different syllable. And then I'll show you what I do. Let's use that really flat, yeah. Must we, Will? Yes, we must. So I need to hit that C note and make sure that it's dum 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 dum. And the way I'll do that. Okay, it's tuned. Okay, so now what I want to do is use this and make our own synth, okay? And make it not sound completely rubbish. So let's first shape it a little bit to make it a plucky synth. I think now that's in tune. Yeah. Okay, and now let's program in a riff and then we're going to process it with some really cool effects. So again, we're going to go to the root of the track, which is the E. And again, I want something that's kind of groovy and that's playing in between the kick. So let's just separate the, just solo the kick in this. It sounds rubbish at the moment, but don't worry, I'll make it sound better. Still working on those 16ths, and I'm just going to repeat this over and over. So now let's process this and make it a bit more interesting. Next thing I'm going to do is add some effects. I'm going to add some redux, which is going to be a bit crusher. Give it some more texture. I'm going to add a frequency envelope. So that's the filter taken down. Add a different filter type, add the drive. It's hard to tell the difference between them, but there is a difference. And now we're going to add a little bit of envelope as well. And now actually we're already coming up with something that sounds pretty savage. See, sounding pretty rad. Okay, now let's get some delay on there. I'm going to do this on the channel itself just because I want to. Now the reason I did this stab delay on a different channel is so I've got loads of control over it. Because now I could EQ this completely independently from our main stab and do any other effects on there I want either. But for this one, we're going to keep it simpler. And I also want to process the delay in the way that I'm going to with the dry signal. So that's sounding pretty cool. Next thing I want to do is add a little bit of, let's add some chorus, and that's really going to thicken this up a bit. So I'm going to go chorus ensemble, and let's just try that. Now open the frequency up. Yes, let's add some reverb. So now we've created quite a cool little sound. Let's have it duck slightly against the kick. And the last thing I'm going to do is add a filter to this because I want this to be really subtle in the mix. And this is really important when it comes to music like this. Having all these subtle layers that are tuned to the track will just fill up the space. And as long as they're not fighting with the main sounds in the track, they're going to just add this lovely depth of production, which is one of the hallmarks between a really good sounding production and something that sounds a bit empty and thin and weak. And I'm sure that you can relate to that because we've all made music like that. So here's how one of the ways that you can help fight that. So it's really low in the mix, right? But just check it out with the kick and the bass. Listen how subtle that is. This is off. And that's on. Yes, mate. Let's bring in those stabs. Stabitha Christie, where are you? What are you doing? You're making me dance. Okay, so a case in point, what we can do now with that stab delay, I'm going to add a sidechain compressor to that. And I'm going to duck it a lot more than I am ducking the main stab, which remember we want to kind of sound as a kick plays at the beginning. We don't want to duck the dry signal too much, but this delayed signal we can. Yes. Okay, I'm not going to get too carried away with this. Who am I kidding? What I'm going to do though is carry on with this because we're running out of time. So let's call this loop 2. Okay, loop 2. First, let me know if you're enjoying this. Give me a hell yeah, or an amen, brother, if you're feeling holy. And let's continue. So I want a secondary shuffle loop now. I'm just going to go to my samples. In fact, I might go to some of the ones I downloaded before. I'm going to go to, no, let's use another loop cloud. So I'm going to open up Loop Cloud in exactly the same way I did before. You can try Loop Cloud out for free using the link below this video. If you do sign up for it, it helps the channel, so thank you. But it is a very cool tool. So I'm going to open the app again, and we're going to look for a shuffle loop. So what I'm going to do is just put shaker, like so. Shakers and tambourines. I'll just go shaker. And let's play and then preview a couple. I'll turn the volume down so we can kind of preview it at a nice volume as well. I want some real high sizzle now. Layering loops is important for this genre as well. I'm listening out for a frequency that works more than the pattern. Okay, that's cool. Yes. So I'm going to download that. Boom. I'm going to drag that into a new audio track, which I've already created, haven't I? Let's drag that in. Should automatically warp. Now there's a triangle in there. That's what the groove's coming from. Again, we're going to add a little bit of a sidechain bounce on that. All right, next thing we need to do is add a couple of cheeky claps in there. Again, something that Hot Since 82 does sometimes, a way to keep things, again, interesting when you're just working with some, fairly few elements, but you need it to develop and over time. And that's what we're going to do when it comes to the production, which I'm about to call the arrangement, boop. That's going to be called boop. Let's color it cyan, the natural color of synths. And we're going to get to the arrangement and the mixing very shortly. So stick around for that. And let's find a clap. I'm going to use a classic 909 clap because, the classics are quite often the best. So I'm going to go to Will's favorites. There's claps. There we go. So I'm just going to use a nice 909 clap. And we're going to just add it in every few bars. Like so. Just like that, simple. Not too loud. And then we can add a little snare skip one here. Again, 16ths, it's all on the 16ths. We'll use the 2 snare skip points that we teach in the Music Theory for EDM Producers course. And here we go. And again, it kind of reinforces the groove of the stabs. There we go. So that's our little drum fill. Okay, let's get to the arrangement. After we've got some vocals. Once again, I'm going to use Loop Cloud for this. No, they haven't sponsored me, by the way. I just haven't used it for a while, so I wanted to. And they've just updated it. So let's put vocals on there. I'm going to create another Loop Cloud instance. And then what we want to do is find a vocal, female vocal, and we're going to use different elements of it. So let's search for vocals in this key, which is E minor natural. So we'll go E minor. And then I'm going to go vocals. There we go. We don't need the top loop anymore. There we go. And we are going to open up. I want specifically to search for female vocals. So I'll put female as a tag as well. The frequencies are just going to go with everything else that's in here already. Because it's higher up the register than male vocals. Unless you're Sam Smith. That's a vibe straight there. That sounds like, ooh, yes! Like, I'd love to use that, but we need a fuller vocal. With some actual lyrics. Yes, yeah, I'm having you, son. Well, not son, but straight away, like in there, straight away. I didn't have to admonish any of these vocalists today, which I'm pleased about, because I find it awkward, To fly to the sky. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Right, 122 ppm. We have to make sure that we warp it correctly. Complex Pro, the best algorithm for vocals. 122, boom. So it should be in time. and let's have a listen. That's a tune! Damn. Right, I was going to do this with a time limit, but I don't care because I'm absolutely feeling this. Okay, next thing we need to do is I'm going to add an incidental reverb to this vocal. And by incidental, I mean it's not running all the time. It's just when you want to add a little bit of spicy little spice. So I'm going to add echo, and I'm just going to send this vocal to this echo at specific points. Let's have a listen. Like that. So we're just going to automate this send control on at choice moments. What's happened? Ah, did I solo it or something? I put that on the wrong channel. I did. Taxi. So I want that to go sky, 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 like so. Let it be done. And so it was done. Oh no, I didn't turn off Discord. Accelerator community Discord. I love you guys, but at the moment I need to focus on this. Why is that not turning off? Ah, because of that. Okay, cool. So let's have a listen. Did you hear that? So I might just delete this bit and then check out what's happening when we hit that. To fly to the sky. That's cool. Let's do it. I'm going to add a little cheeky little sidechain compressor to the vocal, take out the low end because we don't want it fighting with the bass, and I think there's quite a lot of noise down there in the low end. Let's have a look. We're going to have that feedback last longer. We're going to allow some of those high frequencies to come through, and we're going to hit ping pong mode so it bounces left to right. Have a listen. Again, we're going to take that vocal and just chuck it out to the sides. Let's just tweak where it happens. I wasn't planning this at all. That's the one. That's the ticket. Yes, that is a vocal. Oh, my days. Okay, we're going to the break. Okay, now we're just going to arrange this. So first, we want these stabs, and automation is another key skill to this. It's not really a skill. It is a skill. Once you know how to do it, it's easy. So we're going to start with the stabs being low. And we actually may be a bit lower than that. So I'm going to tweak that. We're going to start lower. How do we make that lower? We could stop messaging me. I'm trying to write this. That's a Prodigy track, isn't it? I'm trying to write this beep in tune, man. All right. I saw the Prodigy a few weeks ago performing. They were very good, as they were the first time I saw them performing. Okay, let's get to the stabs. We'll bring that up. And now listen to what happens. The filter's opening up. But we don't want to play our cards too soon, do we? Oh no. It's all about the subtlety. I'm gonna feed some standard reverb on. Oh yeah, add some more reverb to the snaps. Ooh. I think we probably, let's get to the drop. Yes! Oh. This might be my favourite track that I've ever written on this channel. Oh, that just... look, I'm giving it to you for free. You can download it below this project file, but if you enjoyed this, please like it, because I put a lot of work into it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to help support me and see the channel grow. And if you want coaching to get your music to a professional level, do of course check out the Accelerator program. And now I'm going to link you to the last track I did about Hot Synth 82, which should be popping up right here about now. Once again, it was a pleasure to meet Daly, so I hope you enjoy that one as much as you enjoyed this one. Cheers and happy producing.